Howdy folks, BelGeode again. As FlightSimExpo started to wind down, one of the important things that I wanted to do was to get the point of view of some of the attendees of the event. I figure I've gotten enough developer interviews and gotten everybody's questions answered and whatnot. I really wanted to hear how the people who were actually attending the event enjoyed it and what they wanted to see for next year. So I was able to grab a few people, 5 total, and just ask them a few impromptu questions. Now, some of the audio may not be the best, so wherever possible, I will try to put like little subtitles underneath just so you have an idea of what it was that they said. Because unfortunately, being on the convention floor, it is very loud. But I hope that this video will give you a little bit of insight as to how the people who went felt about it. And in addition to which, I would also hope that the organizers of the event may watch this video and get some ideas for next year's. And then at the close of the video, I'm going to have some more pictures just kind of scrolling by here, and I will give you my thoughts on the event. Okay, so to kick everything off, we have a brief interview with one of the attendees by the name of Devon. Alright, so I'm here with Devon. And Devon, where do you hail from?
I'm from Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida. So that was a long flight for you as well, right?
Very long flight. Like most people come here from all over the place though. Just from some of Australia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the real question that I have is this your first convention?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I was supposed to go to one last year. Connecticut never made it at the business. This is the first one.
So how are you liking it so far?
Pretty good. Lots of stuff here. You know, lots of stuff. So,
what would you say has been the highlight so far of your entire time out here?
PMDGs.
PMDGs. Okay.
Very surprising what they said. Wasn't expecting that. But after thinking about it, it seems like
it kind of makes sense. Yeah, definitely makes sense. Cool. And what is your primary flight simulator platform, would you say? P3D? Okay. How long have you been simming?
Oh, since Sublogic.
All right, another old schooler. Yes.
Back in the Atari days.
All right, that is outstanding. Well, cool. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to speak with me about that. I'm going to be going around and asking some more people, how their experience has been. But thank you so much, Devon. Next, I was able to catch Ron, who absolutely made my day with some of his answers. Check it out. Okay. Alrighty, folks, and I am here with Ron. And Ron, is this your first flight sim convention?
No, I went in Connecticut, I saw you in your purple suit and didn't know what to say to you, so I was so intimidated I didn't say anything.
Yeah, the purple suit can be a little intimidating. It's funny, last night I wore it out and nobody really messed with me except for the fact that they all wanted to take pictures with me.
Oh,
so,
I bet. Yeah.
But yeah, where do you hail from actually? Where are you originally from?
I'm near Seattle.
Seattle, okay.
South of Seattle.
Cool.
And I got into simming just because I saw PC Aviator, but I have a Mac and I don't have Windows, so I put Windows on the Mac.
Right.
And then I started loading. I went to a Mac user group and found out there was developers that made airports like orbits.
Yes.
If I didn't go to the user group, I'd be flying in the cartoon version of Flight Simulator today, right?
Sweet. So what is your main platform, would you say? Which sim do you use the most?
Well, I just use Flight Simulator 10. That's what I started with.
Now, Steam Edition, or are you still using the box?
I don't know the difference between Steam and...
Okay.
I don't know if it's any better or what.
From my understanding, a lot of the limitations and bugs that we had in the original boxed edition were fixed when they brought it to Steam. So, like, there's no out-of-memory errors and things like that. Yeah. But other than that, the only real difference, it's on Steam, basically.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should get Steam because I'm getting out of memories when I fly over Seattle.
That will do it.
Design and I get out of memory.
That will definitely do it.
And I didn't know that.
Right.
That would correct that.
Now, seeing that you've been here for the entire time, what would you say so far was the best thing that you've seen at the convention?
You.
Flattery will get you everywhere, man. But as far as like the developers, some of the announcements that we've had, what really sticks out to you?
Well, it was great to talk to the Orbis developers and ask them questions why my SUNY looks bad, you know, and they said it's because I have to put it in the correct order, like above or below FTX.
Okay, so they gave you the right answers then.
Yeah, so maybe
Excellent.
I can go home and fix it now, you know.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Once you start tweaking with it, you know, there is a certain logic to it, and once you figure it out, it's a heck of a lot easier to work with.
Yeah.
Now, my final question to you, given that we are on the last day of FlightSimExpo, what would you like to see for next year's convention?
Boy, I don't know. I think what they have here now is quite an eye-opener. And I'm kind of interested in that you put the goggles on.
Oh, the VR, yes.
And so I'd like to look into that a bit more. I might want to get those.
Right. Have you had the opportunity to try it yet?
Yeah, over there.
Okay.
It looks really good. I was sitting in the cockpit of a Spitfire, and it
Nice.
looks down and you can see all the controls.
It's a game changer for sure.
Yeah, have you done it?
I haven't. I actually have VR at home.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
Oh, which one do you have?
I have the Oculus Rift. I got it last year, probably around July, shortly
yeah.
after I came back from last year's convention. That pretty much sold me. So
Oh, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
do you use it all the time when you're flying, or do you?
I do. I do. In fact, it's gotten to the point where I can't fly on just the regular 2D monitor anymore. I have to have the VR headset on.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
that good. It's that
it's
good.
a different environment, and it feels like you're really in the plane, you know?
Absolutely. And it makes such a difference, especially when you're doing like pattern work and you're trying to come into the airport, to be able to just naturally tilt your head and see
Yeah.
where the runway is. It works. It's just great.
Oh, it's fabulous. I think it's the future of the...
It is, most definitely. So anyway, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and speaking with me here.
Yeah.
Great to see you again.
We'll look forward to seeing you next year.
Absolutely. All right, thanks.
I find it interesting that Ron wanted to see more VR at the Expo, because I thought there was actually a pretty decent representation of the VR sims. For example, Aerofly was there and had a VR setup, which Austin, my buddy in DCS, was able to test out for the very first time, and I think it's actually converted him to VR as well. In addition to which, of course, IL2 was the darling of the party and had their VR setup. And Orbix even had a VR station setup. Now, I do agree that there certainly should be more VR available, but I'd like to see more variety, in particular with helicopters, because that is a real eye-opener once you're actually able to fly in a helicopter. So that's one of the ideas that I would like to put down on the record there. Speaking of Austin, I was able to catch up with him and do an impromptu interview. So let's see what he had to say, being one of the younger members of the flight simulation community.
All right, so I am here with the man of the hour, my personal reel with the Tomcat when it finally comes out in DCS. This is Austin, call sign Gasman. Austin, I want to ask you a few questions. First off, is this your first convention?
It is.
All right, and where do you actually hail from? What is your city of origin?
Boise, Idaho.
Sweet.
KBOI.
Sweet, so you're here by yourself or?
My dad's here.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So you've been here for both days now, right?
Yep.
Okay, what would you say was the best part of what you've seen so far?
This doesn't really relate to developers, but like the community. Just seeing everyone come together.
Yep.
And I like seeing the VR stuff.
Excellent, yeah. We have a new VR convert here, so that's going to be an awesome thing. And what would you say is your primary simulator of choice?
Digital combat simulator.
That's the answer that I already knew, but for the viewing audience, yes, DCS in the house. All right, cool beans. And then the other question that I have for you, how long have you actually been flight simming? Like, when did you first get into it?
I'd say like a year and a half. I haven't been into it for very long.
So still a relative newcomer, and you're learning a lot, obviously, yeah?
I started with my first full fidelity was the L39 Albatross. And then I got to the A10C Warhawk.
Yep.
Which you still have yet to learn. But
yeah, we won't talk about that one. I have 3 episodes up, and that's about all I can do for the time being, but eventually I'll get the rest of them up. And then, since this is your first event, if you're planning on coming for next year, what would you like to see for next year's event?
this probably won't happen, but Ego Dynamics.
You heard it here first, folks. He was not prompted. I did not pay him any money. Eagle Dynamics, we need you here. But you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. All righty, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me here. And I will see you in a few minutes.
I'm really glad that Austin and his dad Chris took the time to come out to FlightSimExpo. Especially for Austin, being a young person in the flight simulation community, I think he was totally blown away by the fact that there were so many of us that came out to, basically celebrate our hobby, our passion, what we like to do. And there were, in fact, a lot of people who brought their kids and even their spouses with, considering the fact that we were in a hotel in Vegas, which happened to have a casino as well as shops. So there's always stuff for the families to do, including hanging out by the pool, which was one of my favorite things. Right about now, I want to bring up Jared. Jared is a part of the MS Flights crew, which Tristan, aka NovaWing24, is also a part of. And Jared's main thing was the hardware, so he's going to talk about that right now.
Alrighty, folks, I found another victim here. This is Jared. Jared is here at FlightSimExpo. Is this your first FlightSimExpo, Jared?
It sure is.
All right. Well, you picked just the right one to get here. Where do you hail from?
Where do I hail from? I hail from Spokane, Washington.
Nice. So not that far of a trip for you as opposed to those of us who came from the East Coast?
No, not as far at all.
Sweet. And what have you found so far here? What's been like your favorite thing that you've seen here?
My favorite thing that I've seen here is the passion that people have for what we do.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So what is your, what do you sim? What is your platform of choice, I guess I should say?
Platform of choice, I guess it'd be which ones are my platform of choice. I utilize FSX, I use DCS, I'm a newcomer to X-Plane 11.
There you go.
And the more I get into each sim, the more I love each one, even the old FSX.
Outstanding. So how long have you actually been simming?
Oh gosh, 20 years.
Oh, cool.
20 years, back when all it was just straight to the lines.
Yep, the old school sims. Outstanding. All right, so what do you hope to see next year for FlightSimExpo?
What do I hope to see next year in FlightSim? Probably my number one gripe that I haven't seen at all really is the hardware. Everybody's got cool hardware, don't get me wrong, but very few guys have hardware that the average guy can. So, you've got Airbus simulator. But how many guys can afford to put that together in their average home?
This is true. This is very true.
I'd like to see more yokes, more throttles, more sticks,
cool.
More control components. We've got some GPSs here this year that have been really good. But other than the GPSs and the do-it-yourselves, there's not a lot.
Right. Well, more than likely what I'm going to end up doing is with these little interviews here, I'll probably make sure that Evan and some of the guys that are the organizers of the event get to see this, so it'll be kind of like feedback for them on what to expect for next year. So thank you so much, Mr. Jared.
More hardware.
There you go, more hardware. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me on that.
You bet you will.
And we will see you soon. Okay.
Hardware was definitely a theme that came up a lot over the FlightSimExpo weekend. In fact, in the weeks leading up to the expo, I had asked all of you for your questions and so on, and one of the more popular questions that I got was asking about the Thrustmaster Warthog stick that was designed for the FA-18 Hornet, in particular with DCS. Now, unfortunately, Thrustmaster did not show up, and they did not send their Hornet stick for us to take a look at. But as you could see in the picture, Milviz did have the Thrustmaster Warthog available, and that's what we were using to fly around with their aircraft. They did, however, send their new rudder pedals that everybody's been talking about, but because of the way it was set up on the table, we really did not get a chance to use it. So hopefully next year, we'll get more controllers, we'll get more affordable hardware, and I would even like to see, if possible, the Puma controls and some of the other helicopter controls that are out there, because that is an area of opportunity. Okay, so for our last interview, I am going to be bringing up a near and dear friend of mine. This is Scott.
Alrighty, folks, and I am here with Scott, and Scott has a special place in my heart because he and I, for a couple of years, were in a virtual airline back in, what was it, the late
Like 2007, 8?
Yep.
And probably for the next 2 to 3 years after that.
Yep, we were both in U.S. Airways Virtual, and he was one of my managers, I believe, for the Charlotte hub, if I'm not too mistaken.
Correct.
All right.
You were holding down Pittsburgh.
Which, of course, leads me to my next question. Where do you hail from?
Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, Waxhaw, North Carolina.
There you go.
It's a small town on the outskirts, but Charlotte, North Carolina is my home.
And I can see you're representing as well,
yeah,
of course.
Needed something comfortable to wear around the conference today. Day
That
2
makes sense.
is pretty exhausting.
Now, I already know the answer to this, but for the viewers watching, is this your first convention experience?
It is not. It's my second. So my first experience was last year when we met in Hartford at the FlightSimCon 2017.
Right.
It was my first taste of seeing all these products, all these developers in person, getting to meet them, see where the hobby is going. You know, as you just mentioned, I've been doing flight sim since 1995. Always on the Microsoft platform.
Okay, so you'd say that's your platform of choice, basically?
Well, it's been the only platform I've known because when I started, I think when you look back 15, 20 years, when you went to stores, that was what was on the shelf.
Right, right.
The internet as a means to acquire products to me was kind of foreign then. I went into stores, saw what was on the shelf, brought it home, installed the CD-ROM, and flew. So that's what Microsoft was. I didn't know about laminar research. I didn't know about what Lockheed Martin was doing from an entertainment standpoint. So I only learned about those things obviously through web forums, FlightSim.com, AppSim, and being a part of a couple of virtual airlines communities as well.
True.
So seeing it firsthand, it's good to see where the hobby's going.
It's grown so much since when we first started getting into this.
And here I was thinking when the announcement came that Microsoft was ceasing operations, I thought that was going to kill this hobby because that's all I knew. Then I had to get out and realize that there's so much more behind the scenes going on, but events like this that bring that community together just let you know it's thriving, it's growing. So I'm personally excited and getting ready to migrate to prepared version 4.
There you go.
Here probably within the next month or 2. So I'm starting that process now.
Outstanding. Now, since you were at the convention last year, what would you say for this convention, what would you say would be some of the major differences that you've noticed, other than, of course, the locale?
The attendance. This is clearly the place to be. The developers know that. The software designers, they know that. They're here. You can see that the hobby is growing. You see a lot of kids.
Yep.
Not like you don't hear them on VATSIM when you're on there. But when you see them here, you know that there's another generation of this hobby that's coming up.
Right.
And my son included. He understands what this is, and he likes to get on there and fly around in like the extra 300 and try to do Red Bull air races, right?
Nice.
He's in it more for the adrenaline, not so much the 30 minutes of flight prep.
Yeah, that's what we kind of expect at that age, though.
Right. Yeah, instant gratification, right? He wants to just jump in the cockpit, have it running, and go, and just try to do flips and whatnot, which is fun. But you see that there's all age ranges here, men, women, children, adults, everything. So I feel like it's in a good place. But last year, obviously the venue, big difference.
Yeah.
Here we are all in one big ballroom. There's a lot of action, a lot of interaction happening. Last year it was very spread out. I felt like I missed some vendors last year because maybe I didn't go in that one room down the hall. So I get it. It is what it is. But this, as far as the venue, is bringing everybody into the same place.
Right.
And so there's more people here. I think there was around 1,000 attendees yesterday.
Yeah, I think the official number was 1107, if I'm not too mistaken, but still over 1,000 people in one building.
Right, to the point where you couldn't even get up close to a lot of the displays when the traffic was at its peak in here. So, I know you're going to ask about what would we do differently.
That's actually my next question. My last question was going to be, what would you like to see for next year's convention?
Well, and it may be, I know there's probably some developers that are key that aren't here. It'd be great if they were here because I've really enjoyed talking to them and saying, hey, I love your product.
Right.
I love your sceneries. Fly Tampa. Great products. Wish you were here to talk about what's coming and just for the developers to see all the interest, that should inspire them to come up with more ideas. Keep making these products. We'll keep buying. But let me know that things are going to evolve and products are going to evolve.
Right. Communication is definitely an important thing, as we found out all of last year with the whole Dovetail Games thing, but we won't discuss that one.
Very true. Very true. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Scott, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and doing this with me. I really
Pleasure's
appreciate
all
it.
mine, Drew. Thanks for having me on the on this podcast.
All right.
Take care.
Ciao.
Now, Scott definitely had a very valid point that we do need to see more developers. One of the things that I noticed, a comparison, if you will, between last year and this year was the fact that there appeared to be less developers on the show floor this year than there were last year in Connecticut, where everyone was, as Scott stated, pretty much spread all over the place. Now, a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that, there was the split in the organization of the event. So now that we have FlightSimExpo in Vegas, we also have FlightSimCon, which is happening a couple weeks from the time of this recording, in Dallas. Unfortunately, most of us are not going to be there. I don't know how well that event is going to work, but I certainly do wish them all the best for that event. For my portion, though, one of the things that I really enjoyed was, in fact, getting to network with people and getting to talk to people that it seems like I only get to speak with either once a year in person or, whenever I can online. In particular, I want to give a shout out to Nimbus Simulation. Santiago, it was amazing to meet you, and it was equally amazing to see what you've been doing with the Huey. And the fact that you were even able to get Austin to chime in the middle of your presentation tells me that people are really starting to pay attention to helicopters. That, of course, brings me to my point that I would definitely love to see more helicopter-related things. It was great that Nimbus was there showing that off, but again, Eagle Dynamics, golden opportunity for them to come there and show off whatever wares they have, especially their phenomenal helicopters, some of whom made by third-party developers such as Polychop, whom I would love to see show up for next year as well. In addition to which, sceneries. When Bill and I were chit-chatting, we discussed the fact that they want to add more helipads, more places for helicopter pilots to actually utilize. Again, that's a great idea, because even though our little portion of the community may not be as large as, say, those of you out there who love flying airliners, we are pretty vocal and we are pretty stubborn. We're not going away anytime in the near future. So yes, definitely if we can get more helicopters, more helicopter-related scenery and so on and so forth, and of course controls, I think that will make for a lot of happy campers. And you heard it here first, folks. We are going to try and get Sergio from HeliSimmer, as well as Mr. Tristan, NovaWing 24, back to FlightSimExpo next year. So there you go. I don't know how we're going to pull this off, but that's the plan, man. Alright, but that will just about do it for me. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed my little impromptu interviews. I will continue to do this at future FlightSimExpo events. So if you want to be a part of that, just find me and say, hey, put me on YouTube, and I'll accommodate you. So my last video is going to be coming up. Traditionally, it seems we have done a roundtable. That is what you can expect coming up next, and that will be the last video featuring the boys from MS Flights and one of the girls from MS Flights. So until then, thank you as always for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. This has been BelGeode, and I will be back with the final installment for FS Expo. Ciao!